Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the channel. Excited to bring you this one today. This was sort of a idea I had last night while I was doing some account analysis, and I wanted to share sort of the process that I go through with my analysis on my account, and hopefully it'll be helpful to you guys if you're still kind of in the early mid-ish game and you've probably pulled a lot of champions maybe for Christmas, and you want to know, okay, what should I rank up next? Who should I be focusing on? I see a lot of Reddit posts. I see a lot of um, posts on social media about who, I've got all these champions. Who should I be focusing on? Who should I be ranking up next? And I wanted to provide some analysis, some tips, and some things that you guys can do with your own account to try and help make those decisions easier. So, this is something that I went through just because I went through the gauntlet at the end of the year with Stock, Noel, Cernic, and Bells, and I just wanted to have sort of like an objective view about who does what really good, and where can my account go. So, the first step of really getting into this is just making sure you know what you're trying to accomplish. I think everyone wants to do more damage in Hydra. Everyone wants to one key Ultra Nightmare clan boss, and everyone wants to be able to be gold, platinum rank in PvP. But what? Not very many people objectively are going to be able to just say, "Well, I want to do that," and then just do it. You really have to put a plan in place. You have to make sure you know exactly what you're trying to accomplish and what champions are going to help you reach those goals. So, knowing what you want to accomplish, for me specifically, and I'll be coming out with a video sort of with my goals for 2025 for Raid. But my goals specifically this year are finish Faction Wars and then just to progress in Hydra and Doom Tower. Those are my big three, to kind of spoiler for that video. But so with that in mind, that's sort of how I influenced my or those things that I wanted to accomplish influenced my decisions on kind of how I wanted to do things, what I wanted to do, what champions I wanted to rank up. So um, this is something that you would want to do with your own account. Doing an objective overview of what do you have a lot of. Do you have a lot of support champs? Do you have a lot of damage dealers? Do you have a lot of one faction versus another faction? Do you have a lot of one affinity versus another affinity? So this is something that you'll have to each individually do on your own account, and just weigh those things. Some of those things are more important than others, but I think they all matter and they all should impact your decision making in one way or another. The next part of this is of course the champions and ranking up champions and getting the most you can out of them. Evaluating your book situation is always critical. On the first slide, you saw what books I had. That's after about, I want to say, 2 or 3 weeks of saving. I think I used everything in one of the last champion training events, and so the book situation is not great right now. But I'm in kind of like a cycle of saving right now, so those numbers should go up pretty substantially here the next time I have a champion to rank up in book. Um, and establishing your account goals, it's going to be critical for you guys to set a reasonable expectation for what you can accomplish. I could say, well, I want to book 50 champions this year. I probably could do that if I spent a lot of money in buying books, buying brews, chickens, whatever. But I don't think that that's reasonable. I think for someone who's a low spender like me, who doesn't really spend money on books or brews or anything, generally, if I'm spending money, it's on energy. I think what's reasonable is probably 2 to 3 champions per month, mixing in, maybe there's 2 epics this month and then 1 legendary. And then if I get, good RNG with books, then maybe I do 2 legendaries. But just it's going to be different for every single person and where your account's at. So setting reasonable goals for what you can accomplish is going to be critical to not getting disappointed, but also feeling like you accomplished something, I know sometimes that doesn't always feel like that with your account. So you may rank up one champion, book one champion up, and then it's like, well, what did I really do? There's thousands. But it's important not to get bogged down by that. It's important to just focus on what you can accomplish, setting those goals, and then sticking to them. So for me, kind of where I started with my analysis was looking at my available roster of champions that were not rank 60 or level 60, and trying to decide who were the best ones that I had. Not really like quote unquote meta champions, but more or less who's going to be someone who's going to have a big impact on my account based on what they do. Do they bring a lot of different debuffs? Do they bring a lot of buffs? Are they a huge nuker? Do they have really good multipliers? That sort of thing. So where that started for me was hellhades.com and their sort of champion tier list, if you will. It's not really a tier list. There's a lot more data there that you can dig into. It goes into every aspect of the game and ranks each champion. So that was a good place for me to start. Also using the optimizer if you have it. So this is a screenshot of what the optimizer tool looks like while it's running on your PC. I think there is a mobile version too, but I don't really use it. I don't know what it looks like. So this is a really good tool if you are looking for like, hey, I want to push into stage 10 of hard Fire Knight. Well, you can go there. It will look at your account, look at your champions and say, okay, these are the champions other people are using that you have to do that. So that's a good place to kind of get an idea, start rounding out your thoughts of, okay, who do I want to rank up next? Who do I want to focus on? For seasoned players, accounts that are a couple years old, you probably don't really need this. This is really sort of a tool, I think, that helps people like me who played for a little while, then took a break and have come back and everything has changed. And I need to sort of re-establish my knowledge of the game. I need to reestablish who does what are the new champions, that sort of thing. A lot has changed and this has been a great tool for me. So the other really good source is YouTube, believe it or not. There are channels like Ash's channel, YST, and Nubraids does a lot of where they look at champions. They break them down. They put them in situations that you will most likely be using those champions in. There is a lot of grain of salt because gear is so different for every account. But it's a good barometer and a good way to see in an objective, semi-objective environment, how is this champion going to perform? The biggest thing for me to have an accurate analysis was to write it down. I had to make notes. I had to rank champions. I had to put them in a context in one spot where I could compare all of them against each other. Scrolling through the menu, scrolling through the index, looking at champions, and then having to go back and forth. It's just not going to be an effective way for you to do any objective, effective analysis. So writing it down for me was the biggest part of this. And with my data gathering, my own personal goals, which I stated earlier, Faction Wars, Hydra, Doom Tower, those are going to be what influence you in how you rank certain champions. Maybe there's a champion, and you'll see it in a minute when I show you my analysis of my own account. You'll see, okay, I really am struggling in Hydra, but I'm not struggling in Arena, or I'm not struggling in this other area. So I am going to weigh Arena, I'm going to weigh Hydra effectiveness as more than Arena effectiveness because I already have good Arena champions. So this is the kind of mindset that I had during this analysis, and I think most people, when doing an objective analysis with their account, can or should have in order to make better decisions. Okay, so for my account, as I kind of stated earlier, my big goals and expectations are Faction Wars. I'm 735. I think it's 940 total stars across all the factions. So I would say I'm about 2/3 there. I have a couple factions that are really, really low on the star count. So, I'm going to shade not shade, but I'm going to weigh those factions greater than other factions because it doesn't help me in achieving my goal of finishing Faction Wars to rank up a champion in a faction that already has all the stages cleared, which I think maybe I'm 4 or 5 factions just completely done. My secondary goals being Hydra and Doom Tower utility. There are a lot of good Hydra champs, and there are a lot of good ones for factions that I don't have finished. So this is I would say that this is pretty indicative of an account that is only about a year and a half in, like mine is. someone who does not spend a lot on shards, who does only pull when there are certain double events or there's good champion chase events where I'm going to get a lot of good books and things like that. Pardon me. And then, unless the champion was an S tier meta champ, it was basically ruled out if it couldn't help me in one of those three areas: Faction Wars, Hydra, and Doom Tower. Now, you could argue, well, like a Newt would be good in all of those things, and you'd be right. And if I had a Newt, he would be at the top of the list. I don't have a Newt. I wish I did. I wish I had two. But I was unlucky at the end of the year, did not pull him during that chase event, so it is what it is. And then getting into kind of what I was talking about earlier, my book economy. So my book economy right now is generally between 1 to 2 epic and legendary champions per month. I could probably stretch that to 3 if I finished a couple events and spent some resources to kind of double up on finishing a tournament or whatever, and also getting the book while also either farming gear or doing something like that. But I think conservatively 1 to 2 champions per month is a good place to start. And if I exceed that, well, then I'm just exceeding expectations. So these were the champions from an epic and legendary standpoint that I, through my analysis, decided, okay, these are the 6 I want to go into a deep dive on and see who exactly is going to have the biggest impact. So for the legendaries, it was Glaciade, Scorid, Lady Noelle, Sir Nick, He-Man, Stock, and Molly. So, and there's a couple spelling errors on here. It is what it is. My bad. So Glaciade, well, I should start with sort of like the parameters. So my parameters that I took into account were the Hell Hades overall score, which comes from their champion tier list. What areas did they have the greatest impact for? So what are they most used for, and what are they strongest at? What faction were they? And then what was my faction war progress on that, for that faction? And that goes for the legendary and epic champions. So you can see, like, we'll start with Glaciade, 4.5 score out of 5 on hellhades.com's tier list. That's, you only go to a 5 from there. And most non-void legendaries are not going to be 5s. There are a few, but like a Newt or whatever, but a 4.5 is an excellent score for a non-void legendary. Probably one of the best you can get. So with Glaciade, Hydra, of course, huge Hydra champion. I can go into a little bit more detail as to why these champions are such big impact for those areas. I'm not going to do that in this video, but I can as I rank them up and sort of apply them to teams and whatnot. But Hydra, Doom Tower, Iron Twins. My Iron Twins teams are okay. So ranking him up is going to help there too. But again, stating my previously stated big goal was Faction Wars. And as you can see, my Faction War progress for the Sylvan Watchers is abysmal. 27 out of 63. Really, really bad. So this guy's going to have a huge impact there. The other thing to take into account is kind of who you already have ranked up. And for me, with the Sylvan Watchers faction, I have an Elva, max ranked, fully booked. And I have a Mist-Rider Dythe, who's fully ranked up. I just need masteries on him. So this is going to be a really good foundation for a solid Sylvan Watchers faction war team with Glaciade, Elva, and Dythe as my damage dealer. That opens up a lot of flexibility for those last 2 positions. So maybe a spoiler, but Glaciade's certainly on my list of next champions to rank up. The other thing I wanted to say about this analysis is that, Lady Noelle, Sir Nick, and He-Man are excellent champions. You could argue the combination of Lady Noelle and Sir Nick is a 5 out of 5 with the utility that they bring, the unkillable, the reses, the constant freezing. It's just really, really good. And it's part of the reason that I went for those 2 champions, is because I wanted to have that on my account and have that available. So I did take that into account for sort of my decisions. What it really came down to, and they're certainly high up on the list if I were to rank champions that I want to rank up next, like 1 to 5. Noelle and Lady Noelle and Sir Nick are definitely high up there, but my Sacred Order faction progress is already 63 to 63. So given my stated goal, they're not that they would help make those clears more efficient and faster and help me on sort of like a daily basis when I'm clearing through faction wars. But that's sort of not what I'm trying to do. I'm not trying to go faster. I'm just trying to rank up champions that will help me achieve the 940 out of 940 stars that I need to get to. So while those champions are really good and I'm not trying to take anything away from them, it just doesn't fit what my account needs right now. Going down the list a little bit more, stock. Now, this was the most recent fusion before Lady Noelle. So not the most recent, is the second most recent fusion. And his big thing, and I mean, it's really hard to describe in how many different ways he is very, very good. Clan Boss, he's excellent. Basically any non-hard mode dungeon, and a lot of the hard mode dungeons, he's excellent. Doom Tower specifically for the Scarab, for the Eternal Dragon, for the Frostbiter, really, really good because of his burn activations and poison activations. So given that my Ogryn Tribe faction war status was only 38 out of 63, this was also kind of a no-brainer for me, but it also puts me in between two minds, because a real weakness for my Hydra teams right now is my provokers. And Molly is one of the best provokers you could have for Hydra. So it really sort of was a tough decision for me between these two. If I had to rank these champions in the order in which I would rank them up to have the impact on my account, it certainly would be Glycade, Stock, Molly, Noelle, Cernic, He-Man, probably Scourge being last. Scourge's pretty bad. The only reason he made this list is because I have a severe lack of Hexers for Hydra, and he is someone who can do that. We'll have to wait a little bit longer and see. If I go a couple more months without pulling any sort of meta champs that do a Hex, or I can't get a good curse set put together, he might make the cut for my third Hydra team. We'll just have to see. That'll be analysis later down the road. And then lastly, with my Epic champions, really, this one is a little bit more difficult, but I also don't think it's as important to make really impactful decisions with your Epic champs, because you get a lot of books, a lot more Epic books, and you can have the opportunity to rank up more of them versus legendary champions and get them to their full power, is kind of what I mean. So Whisper is an excellent champion. Seeker, very, very good. Husk, Sylar, Doom Priest, Haikatoon, and Aox. I mean, Haikatoon's on the list because she simply is just an incredible turn meter manipulator, giving increased speed to your team, reducing turn meter of the enemy team, and then also an A1 with a decreased speed. It's just an incredible kit. Really, really underrated. I think I am ashamed that my Haikatoon is not max rank yet, especially with a 5-star blessing that I have on her. 4 or 5. I think it's 4, actually. But my Barbarians are great. Farrakhan the Fat could have made this list too, but my Barbarians are already 63 out of 63. So it would only be making that more efficient versus helping me achieve the goal that I've already stated that I need. So what I ended up going with, actually that's on the next slide, so we can go to the next slide. So as I was stated, Lady Noelle, Cernic, He-Man, and Molly were eliminated, just as I have those factions complete. Scourge was eliminated just due to limited usefulness. And my conclusion was that Glycade and Stock should be my next champs to rank up. They're going to help me in the most areas. And for my epics, it's going to be Husk and Sylar. Husk can be a really, really good Hydra nuker, which really did play into my decision with that. And also his impact on faction wars will be definitely felt, seeing as how for my undead, I believe it's undead, right? Undead hordes? Yeah. My undead hordes faction really lacks a couple impactful damage dealers, so he will be good there. And then Sylar, mainly because that faction does not have any good damage dealers for faction wars that I currently have. And she will also have some limited usefulness in Doom Tower, Centranos, and for less so Hydra for Sylar, but more so for Doom Tower, Faction Wars, and City of Centranos. So what is my conclusion with all this is that my conclusion for me personally for my account is that it helps me make better decisions that I think will impact my account and take it further than say if I were just, like let's just YOLO He-Man and rank him up because he's cool and does a lot of damage. That's awesome. If that's how you want to make decisions with your account, I'm not saying there's anything wrong with that. If that's what you want to do, go for it. As always, this is a game. Have fun with it. Don't let other people tell you, oh, you shouldn't have done this, you shouldn't have done that, because there are people like me who want to be as efficient as possible, and that is the fun. And then there are other people who are just like, dude, I just want sick champs, and I get it. Like, there's nothing wrong with either of those ways to play. I personally believe that good decisions over a long period of time will accelerate your account faster than what you would expect. And so that's why I do what I do. But again, not trying to downplay or say that anyone's playing it wrong. And that's the thing that I really enjoy about the game is planning, decision making, how, doing this analysis. This is sort of like the game within the game that I really enjoy playing. And it's important for every person, if you're going to play a game like this for a long time and progress is slow and that sort of stuff, find something that you enjoy about it. Do you enjoy, the gear chase? Do you enjoy just ranking up new champions and having a big roster? That's cool too. Do you enjoy collecting all the champions? I've definitely heard people that like to do that. Either way, patience is always going to be rewarded with this kind of game. And doing this kind of analysis will help you sort of lay out a game plan and be patient with your decisions because you've sort of already made them based off of a data-driven analysis of what your account has and what it needs. So, patience is always going to be key. If you're going to be a free-to-play player in the game, you have to be patient and you have to just be able to not make rash decisions like, oh, screw it, I'm just going to pull all these sacreds and then maybe a good event comes out and then you're kind of screwed. I am somewhat of a victim of my own impatience over the holiday. I did decide to buy some primal shards and I got 7 rares and 3 epics. And I was like, why did I do that? That was such a waste. That was a waste. I could have used those resources, that money I spent on those resources to do something else. And so, based on that, I probably won't be spending for a little while after that horrible luck. So Plarium got me again. I was impatient. I bought shards and then I paid the actual price, which was the disappointment of not getting anything good. So I always preach patience. I probably always will. And it may be less so for you guys and more for myself. So anyways, just in conclusion, I hope you guys found this helpful. If you ever need help or anything, send me a comment, send me a message. I'll do what I can to take a look at your account and help you. And if not, just enjoy the content. If you got one good nugget out of this, that makes me happy. So drop me a comment, leave me a message. And I hope you guys have a great new year. The next video is probably going to be a more in-depth sort of explanation of my account goals for 2025. So I hope to see you guys then. If I don't hear from you, have a great day. Have a great new year. I'll see you guys later.